Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Air. Today I am joined by Adam Weeks. Adam is the sales team lead for EMEA at Bigtincan, and he's joining us today to talk about what I think is a very interesting topic. Actually, we're going to be just pulling apart prospecting via email. There's a hell of a lot of content right now that's telling us that email open rates are reducing, they're not working as well, it's noisy, all this stuff about getting away from email. And Adam's got some thoughts and some ideas and some experiences that might just get us thinking a bit differently about that. We'll unpick some bits around that and also potentially some sales enablement topics as well. Before we get into topic though, Adam, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Owen. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been tried this a few times now, haven't we? But we're here.
We have indeed. It's great to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Before we go into topic with our guests, we like to give our guests 2 minutes to tell us who's Adam, who are Bigtincan, for those people that don't know you or Bigtincan already.
Sure, no worries. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on. So who is Adam Weeks? Adam Weeks is a ex British Army soldier. Joined the army when I was very young, 16. So didn't even qualify. You have to do the first year for free. And traveled across the Middle East and then fell into sales after about 7 years of being in the army. And then I've been in software sales for probably the last 10 years now, which is starting to show on my hairline. And I'm a dad. And to a little boy who's 2. I've got 2 dogs and a pretty crazy home life. And I work for a company called Bigtincan. I've been here for 3 years now. We're a sales enablement vendor. So we offer a unified platform for sales and marketing teams to come together and collaborate all in one place. So been here doing that for a little while, and it's been a hell of a stark difference to being in the army. So a nice computer.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very different. Hey, look, I'm actually going to start. I know we want to dig into the email piece, but before we get there, let's just start with the sales enablement piece, because just you talking about that there just made me think, I need to just ask a couple of questions around that before we dig in. What's going on with sales enablement at the moment? What are you seeing? What are the trends? What are people doing well? What are people not doing so well? Just give me a sense of how you see things.
Yeah, so I think there's so many different things. I think one day maybe the word sales enablement might disappear and be rebrand itself as revenue enablement, because there's more and more teams that are now wanting to be part of that solution. It's not directly affecting the salespeople. You've got operations, channel, marketing. There's so many different people now, which is actually now causing the sales cycles to go longer. There's more people getting involved. So that's a big change. But one big thing I've started to notice is how the tool can directly affect sales leaders, reporting of pipeline, how salespeople should use it, and really understand, is that a deal that I should be putting into commit or not? And what can I use to try and help me understand it better? And we're having sales leaders reach out to us more now to go, hey, look, you do sales enablement, but how does that directly affect me as a sales leader, and how can it directly affect my sales team? So we started to see more conversations around that. And when you sort of open the eyes to some sales leaders, are like, wow, I didn't even know this tool could do this. And it's great, right? Because it helps me as a salesperson at heart. So it's been really helpful.
It's really interesting you say that, more and more people getting involved. We were talking before we went live about where reps get involved and where they should and shouldn't be involved in the discussion. Love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think when we're speaking to organizations that might have quite a large sales team, we want to try to engage with the sales leaders as early as possible, because at the end of the day, they're the guys who are going to be using it, right? Marketing can load it with lovely content, which they do, but it's actually getting people to use it and understand, like, can this help me increase my win rates? Can it help me reduce the amount of time that it takes me to onboard? I want to get out there selling, but I have to sit behind PowerPoint videos and all sorts that are mind-numbing. But yeah, we're really starting to see the change, that it is more of a sales-led conversation, because they're starting to understand, like, oh, hold on a second, like this is really helping me reduce productivity time, making me more productivity has increased, should I say. And it just allows me to understand if my prospects are interested in the content we're sharing. It's I guess thinking back in the day, even myself, how long is it taking you to find the right piece of content? And then when you send it out attached to an email, it's like, did they read it? And then you end up becoming that sales guy that goes, hey, Owen, I'd love to catch up and see your thoughts on the piece of content. And you're like, read it yet? And this guy keeps on calling me. But it's now you can start using these tools to eliminate that. And you end up becoming more of a thought leader, because you've actually listened to the prospect and you know what their interests are. And you can use the system to help you better understand when they're ready, which I'm sure you get it all the time when you're looking to buy something, or even just express an interest. The calls keep coming and it's like, I'm not ready yet, but some analytics could help some of those sellers trying to sell to you.
I was going to say, and I think data is I think people's perception on data varies dramatically, doesn't it? And data plays such an important role in our decision making, both at a strategic level and a rep level. And I don't know, but again, be interesting to get your take on to what degree are people adopting that and using data to inform decision making at a strategic management level, but also at a rep level when it comes to sales enablement, when it comes to what you do and don't do in the sales process. Are people still looking at it big picture on a whiteboard and off they go, they create it and follow the pattern? Or are you seeing people prepared to use the data that they're getting? Be interesting to get your take.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. If a lot of companies are still almost in that world where it's like, we keep on hearing of this word sales enablement, and it's almost like that cross on the chasm piece that a lot of software industries go through, and it's like, we're starting to see we're coming out towards the end of that. I personally think, where people are actually starting to sit up and go, oh, well, we could use this solution, but look at the analytics that we're getting, but how do we use that? And then it's using our expertise to teach people, like, this is what other people are doing. Some people go full in, they're like, right, get rid of all of that. We're using the analytics and you have to stick by it. And some people are taking a bit more of a crawling pace, where it's like, okay, well, we can make some small adjustments over here, some small adjustments over there, just to see where we go with this, and taking a real sort of, nice steady pace. But then, there's some companies that are just like, yeah, right, let's go. This stuff's amazing. So, I mean, it's very versatile at the moment, and I think it will probably change again in 2023. I'm sure there'll be another twist in the whole sales enablement world.
Sure, you're right. I'm absolutely sure you're right. Let's get into the topic we intended on being on today, which is around using email in the prospecting process. I'm going to caveat this and probably make a bit of a confession up front that I might be, normally I try and ask the questions that I think our audience would be asking, that sometimes challenge a guest's thinking. Because I think there are people out there that will agree with everything you say and our guests say, and there are other people that will be thinking, hang on a second, I'm not seeing that, or I'm not sure I agree with this. You need to ask that question, Owen. So I try and represent those people as much as I can. But on this topic, I think what's great is you've come on and said, look, email prospecting is working really well. We're doing some things that work really well for us. And we talked about the fact there's so much content, including my own content, that's around how email is reducing in effectiveness, how open rates are dropping, engagement rates are dropping, has so much noise on email. And we're trying to find creative ways to do prospecting. So we come from opposite takes, which I love, because that means I can ask the questions. I know exactly what these people are thinking. But let's get your take on it first, because what you're saying or you were saying to me up front is that actually you're seeing a lot of success from prospecting emails, things that are working well for you, and I'd just love to learn from that.
No, I think from my experience being probably, you could argue that I was the first rep for Bigtincan in EMEA. There's only so many hours in the day that you can cold call and email and prospect. You're a one-man machine, right? Almost like your own sort of startup. And I think what I had to learn very quickly was how can I provide the most value in an email without it being like a story written by, you know, a really good author? You want to be straight to the point. You don't want to overload somebody with information, and you want to at least try and hook them in with something, right? It's all about and standing out. Like you say, across COVID, I think made a lot of people go into the whole, oh, I'll just email everybody. There's no such thing as cold calling, which is then just driven up the amount of inbounds that people are getting. And I think one of the fundamental things that people forget is there's a human sat on the other side of this reading it. And if you can't help them in their job, why are you emailing them in the first place? You shouldn't, right? It's just not. And that's when I speak to the sales team here, and and that's the SDRs and our AEs who do cold outreach as well. It's like you got to think to yourself, it's not just we're trying to book a meeting. We're trying to educate somebody on something they don't know. Potentially, they may do. But let's say, for example, they don't know anything. It needs to be such a on-point email. They go, oh, that's interesting. I'll actually respond back to Adam, and I'll give him 30 minutes to learn about something that I don't know about.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, with a lot of emails, and I'm sure there'll be some people going, yeah, well, we've tried that before, but there's a few little sort of hints and tips that I use to, one, differentiate myself from the noise of emails, and two, just what I use, how I go about putting together an email. So we can definitely tear that apart, and would love to hear some of the challenges that you might have.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's go. Come on. So first question, when you're talking about email prospecting, I just want to set the scene. You're talking about one-to-one emails. So prospect identified, writing an email for that rep. What you're not talking about is email marketing, right? Sending emails en masse with, okay, cool. Tick, we're moving past that one. I'd just be keen, before we get into the actual content, around understanding the logistical piece. So you talk about the speed of cold calling, the availability. How much time do you prep before you get into an email? How long is this taking you as a process? How many can you get through?
So there's a bit of a count, because I use an outbound tool. I don't know if you want me to name them, but well, I use SalesLoft. Okay.
Yes.
So what with my cadences is very much using the likes of, I try to pick an individual job title, so marketing director, for example, in a medical device company, right? Yeah. So we've narrowed it down, very specific, and then it's right, okay, what do those people care about? And then I'll add them all into sort of one cadence so it's specifically for them and them only, no one else. So I could probably get out on average per day, probably about 40 to 50 highly targeted emails. As were before, I could probably get out 100 to 150 because I was doing a bit more of a spray and pray. And what I quickly realized at the beginning of my term at Bigtincan was that's not really working. And I'm just coming across as just some guy dropping in your inbox, hoping to book a meeting. So if we start to narrow it down, we really learn like what that person's problems are, and I'll be able to give the secret away of where I find that information from. Is then you come across just an actual genuine email that you're trying to help somebody because you know what problems they have, and you can help them at least overcome some of them. Can't do all of them, because then it'd be a perfect world, right? At least one or two of them should give you enough of a chance to have a meeting with that person.
So 40 to 50 highly targeted emails in a day is your sort of expectation.
Yeah.
Talk to me about highly targeted. So we're talking about certain sector or certain types of organizations. So we're narrowing it down on a sector basis. We're narrowing it down based on persona within that organization. Yeah. And therefore we're able to narrow that down to the challenges and problems that they're likely to solve. So that's your definition of highly targeted?
Absolutely, yeah, because what I then do is, well, I obviously work with my own marketing team to figure out or speak to a rep that is sold into, say, a medical device company. I'll use that as an example. Or it could be a retailer or a manufacturing business. And go, okay, well, so who was your top 5 people in that business that you spoke to?
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, I really only dealt with the marketing team. Okay, well, let's now create lookalikes of those individuals and who else looks like them in other companies. So direct competitors, smaller versions, bigger versions of that business, and then start to go, okay, well, I reckon that individual is the same as that person. They look after the same thing. It tells me on their LinkedIn what they do. Right, let's add them bucket. And that way, it's really sort of going, okay, well, everybody else, see you later, don't care about you. They're the people that I'm interested in speaking to the most, because I can tell them a story, and everyone loves a story. Everyone does. So the more that you can tell a story about how people in their role in another company, could be a competitor, could not be, is finding success, they're going to sit forward and go, I could do with some success. Well, how can you help me? So that's the sort of thinking process. Now, it might not be right, but you don't book over 100 cold meetings with marketing directors of 500 plus employee companies in the time that I've been here. So I know it works. So not saying it all works, but yeah.
No, well, there isn't a strategy out there that does, mate. So don't, I think it's about being successful enough to get your target, right? And in amongst that, we know there's going to be failure, and anybody who thinks otherwise is definitely kidding themselves. So let's just step back from that for a second. So those highly targeted emails, we've got sector, we've got persona, and we've got challenge or problem or relevancy from a messaging perspective. Are you personalizing all of those 40 to 50 around the challenge? Because if they've got the same challenge, I guess there's a piece of the content that's consistent. Are you then personalizing around that and doing something different on each of those 40 or 50 emails compared to the one before?
Yeah, so what I've actually done is, and I guess this is the secret recipe of basically like what is the final spice of KFC?
There we go, the kernel's coming out.
Or Coca-Cola giving the recipe away. But it's actually just going on to LinkedIn or going on to Google and typing in that individual's job description. Because when they go to apply for a job, the job will tell them, like, this is what they're going to be responsible for. And you can hazard a bet that there's some of those things that they're responsible for are broken in that company, right? So they're trying to get someone else in to come in and fix it. Or they wouldn't be advertising that job because they've got someone in there fixing those problems already. So the biggest thing that I would ever say to anybody watching this video who are looking to, or even new people getting into sales who are looking to book some meetings, go and Google that person's job description. It could be marketing director, manufacturing company, or or manufacturing, doesn't not specifically the company, or you could say marketing director at Red Bull, because at one stage that job description was online and you'd be able to find it. And then what I simply do is I piece together what are their responsibilities and how I can help them in that response in those areas. So they're going, oh, this guy knows what I do. So he's actually getting some attention, or he's basically done his research. He's telling me that he can help me with some of those problems that I'm looking after. Oh, and there's a picture of him holding a coffee cup, or a GIF of him with a sign saying, hey, I'd love to have a chat with you. And he's actually put some thought into this. And it's not just a massive email that's like this long and it's just text, because no one ever reads them.
Yeah, so true. That's really interesting. Love that idea of going and finding their job description. And you can't unless something's changed in the organization, you can't be a million miles away from some of the key challenges. That's a really good idea. I've never thought of that before. I get why it's 40 or 50 a day now, because that takes time, doesn't it? Realistically, if you're working a 8-hour day, you're getting one done every 10, 15 minutes maybe, or whatever it works out to, and you just got to move on and move your mindset to the next one. It sounds like you lead with some form of education. Earlier you talked about if I can give them something, help them to learn something, are you putting in data, ideas, giving something away in that email, or are you more talking just about the challenge and I can help you and leaving it to the level of curiosity you're hoping to achieve?
So on the first email, absolutely. It's just that curiosity. We work with people like, like you, Owen, at Air Marketing, and this is what we're doing to help them achieve reducing onboarding time, or they can start to understand ROI from the content that's being consumed. And it's like, hey, look, if you, I always close it off with, I've started doing this beforehand. It was very much like, oh, are you free Monday or Wednesday? And I think that's really dying out now. Because you're almost pigeonholing people into picking one or the other, and they sort of feel like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And it's just more a case of asking, if you want to learn more, just let me know. I'll send you some more information. It's very casual, but I'm still leaving a little bit there to hook them in, such. Then obviously as they go through, a cadence, I would probably say we then start adding in a bit more information around how we do it, and a little bit more information about stats that we're seeing or case studies, just to sort of back up that, hey, we're not just making this up here. It's, I've done my research on you. I have an understanding these problems might exist. I'm telling you we can overcome them, but don't take my word for it. Here's a case study of somebody that is in the same industry as you that is using our solution. So it sort of gives them a bit of a feeling like, this is not just another rep or it's another SDR that's just trying to book meetings so they can tick the box. It's like these guys are genuinely coming to us and really want to help us because they've done it before.
You said about the cadence, how many emails do you typically build into a cadence? What would you say?
So they are, I guess, core cadence, I would say, is about 15 steps.
Okay.
I learned this from one of SalesLoft's competitors. So if Ollie is watching this, he'd be like, what's that guy doing? No, I based on some research on the success that I've had and the success of other people outside this company because, well, you can find this information, right, on Google and on LinkedIn because everyone loves raving about it. But I would say the steps are about 15 steps over about 45 days because people aren't waiting for Adam Weeks' email to come in and go, oh my God, yes, I need some help here. They need educating a little bit. So I would say before we started going back into sort of offices and stuff, I would say out of the 15 steps, there was about 9 emails, a couple of LinkedIn touches and a couple of phone calls. And those phone calls, I would say, were pretty unsuccessful because people were like, oh, I'm not putting you through to such and such as mobile. So it was, but now there's probably about 5 calls in there, a couple of LinkedIn touches, and then the rest is email. And quite frankly, it's been working for us. One of our AEs last week, she, just her on her own, she doesn't have to do this, but she went out there and booked 4 cold meetings within 3 days of just tinkering with her cadence. And it's like, that's crazy. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good output, isn't it? I was going to say my next question is, it's been working for us as a big statement. What does that look like where you are? Because I guess that comes out in number of meetings and then flows through to quality of meetings. But you kind of answered the question there. I'm keen to, I asked about the cadence and how many emails. Do you see or have any data around where you tend to get the first point of engagement reply most commonly? Because I'm guessing it's not the first one, and it probably isn't the last one either.
No, it varies across industry. Yeah. So Bigtincan works across multiple industries. I think 7 in total. I think, and so some are more. Some reply more than others. On the first one, the first one could work really well in telco, but actually the first email in targeting energy companies isn't the best one. So
Right.
actually, what it might be, what we typically see is the reply to the original email.
Mm.
It would probably be, I don't know, maybe third step, because you've done an email, you've let them read it, you've touched something on LinkedIn, like a comment or a post, or you've reached out to them to connect, and you've tried a phone call, and then you leave it for a couple of days because you don't want to be that pesty guy.
Yeah.
And then you go, hey, look, I'm just conscious, you may not have seen the first email. I just wanted to back up what I've been saying with a case study, and here's some info. I would love to grab some time with you to let you learn more about how we might be able to help such and such, overcome some of the challenges that I expressed in my first email. So you're always referring back to the research that you've done, and obviously that's the time and effort that you've put in. So if you can keep on responding back to that, it starts to resonate with that individual and go, you know what, this guy can actually help me because he's looked at what I do. He understands the challenges that I have. I need to learn a bit more about this, so.
That makes sense. Just around I'm staying on the data topic here because I think it's the measurements of these things that people are always asking about. So I'm trying to represent and ask the questions I know people want. It's around what do you, when you say, it's working well for us, it's going well, we're seeing good results. There's a good little case study there around 4 meetings booked in 3 days by one rep. Fantastic, really good results in mid-market enterprise. It's incredible. I guess the continuation, the consistency of performance has to be there too. But I'd love to just understand, what you see from an open rate, reply rate, meeting rate, just so that we can, people listening to this are like, I can benchmark, I can get a feel of what good looks like.
Yeah. So in my good, I guess, for us, our open rates are between 30 and 45%, because I'm a bit picky when it comes to the subject line.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a knack for that. And also, so I think that's phenomenal, like getting that open and getting through. Obviously, it comes back to data as well that we're using, and I think we've gone through like 3 different providers to try and get to the best one. Jury's still out on this one, but then the reply rate is between 2 and 4%. As a standard cadence. And like, you think about how many sort of people that you can outreach to, how many companies there are just in EMEA, for example. That response rate is insanely, it's pretty damn good, to be honest. And then with that, we would be looking on average per week, we would be expecting at least 3 meetings in the diary a week, from a typical cadence. We try to push it. Obviously, with these things, if you try and scale it too hard, you start to lose a little bit of that tailorability to the individual, and sometimes you can really run the risk of just completely destroying any way of trying to get a meeting with that individual because it just comes across as a spammy email. So
yeah, really interesting. And I'll caveat all of this by saying that it varies drastically. So people we work with, the sector you're selling into, the persona you're selling into, they have habits that, regardless of the quality of your outreach, are going to dictate how often they open emails, whether they do or not, what kind of response you get to them, and how regularly they reply. We know there are profiles out there are far easier to sell to than others. But you're selling into marketing, right? Most of the time.
Yeah, 90% of our outreach is into sort of heads of marketing, global CMOs. And this is why you have to take the time and effort to learn what these people do. Because it's not fair on them they're being bombarded, because it just turns people off. And then it's unfair on yourself, because if you can't be bothered to put the effort in, then you don't deserve the meeting. You might get the odd chance, with the odd occasion, where someone does say, oh yeah, I'm interested in this, but then doesn't go anywhere. You put the effort in, it could go somewhere, you know. It really could really take off. And I think the biggest one for me is it's just like I said, it's spending the time to think about the individual on the other side, and where people are using their phones nowadays to read emails. Does it look good on your phone?
Yeah, good point.
If it doesn't look good, don't send it, because horrible. And they'll be like, oh God, delete, and that's it. You've lost it.
Really good point. I hadn't thought about that at all, actually. It's a really, really good point. Adam, I'm keen as we wrap up just to give you a chance to let our audience know who should be talking to Bigtincan, who can you help, and how can they get in touch with you? And what do you help them with? What challenges? What challenges do you help them with?
Yeah, well, I don't help you with your email marketing.
That's maybe you just did.
Yeah. But I'm sure we could strike up some sort of partnership where I could help on that. But no, if you're if you're a sales leader, or looking to help reduce onboarding time, help your reps understand what deals are engaged and which aren't, and also if you're a marketer looking to figure out which one of your reps is using what content to help them win new customers, then come and speak to us here at Bigtincan, because we help companies of medium to large enterprise businesses better understand what content is helping salespeople win new customers.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant stuff. Look, thank you so much. So I think some brilliant ideas in there, and some good data and insight for people listening as well, just to better understand what you're doing and what's working well for you at a time where, as we say, a lot of people are not moving away from email, but are wondering how to get the best out of it, and seeing decreasing reply rates and response rates. So really appreciate you sharing your experience with us, Adam, and for coming on the show today as well. Thank you ever so much.
Cheers, Owen, and thanks everyone for watching.